some cases, there are no jobs in a lot of fields. You have what's called a dysfunctional economy that is, frankly, sucking on CBI to its disadvantage because your economy is not expanding. Where are all the small, light industries, especially in high technology? They're not there. Where is the advanced agriculture? That's not there. Where are the small businesses expanding and hiring more people? They're not there either. All these years in the East Caribbean of taking money hand over fist so that some Iranian or Russian can get a passport has jaded the East Caribbean states.
Very, very serious information there. And I heard that earlier Mr. Trump made a comment or remarks that he wants the Chinese, Iranians, and others like that, other from Russia, to be out of the country. Have you heard about that?
Yes. Well, listen, things are going at a very rapid pace. You know that the Russians and the Chinese are now buying where they can private islands in the Caribbean. There are 2 in Jamaica. There's another one somewhere in the South Caribbean. They are trying to get in as desperately as they can, and the United States has taken the position that all foreign influence has to be out of here because it's using its money to influence government rulings. Now, I understand if I'm a government official in China, I want to get a whole bunch of people to vote for me at the UN. But the problem is that these Chinese investments will tie the Caribbean for generations and make them vassals of China. And the U.S. doesn't want that. You need your independence. Oh yeah, I can see things like that happening. Declaring Chinese nationals persona non grata and removing them from several of the East Caribbean states.
Because we now have a very important project in Dominica taking place. And as you said just earlier, Mr. Rijok, I mean, we might have to take a side as it relates to China or America. But what happens to this major infrastructure when the CBI is no more and the Chinese has promised to complete this airport? What would happen in that instant?
That's right. It wouldn't be the first infrastructure facility in the Caribbean to die an unnatural death. And these are all serious issues. And frankly, so long as you have the present government in Dominica, who likes to get his picture taken with Maduro, with the president of Russia and of China, the United States is probably going to take the position that, you're not an ally. You are an opponent. Remember, there's already a huge division in CARICOM itself between the nations allied with the U.S. and those allied with Maduro. I mean, it was just, what was it, yesterday? A bunch of politicians in Grenada publicly took Maduro's side against the United States. The man's a dictator. So things are going to get worse before they get better. And the only way that you can start thinking about changing things in Dominica is you're going to need a change of government. How that happens, I cannot say.
All right, Mr. Rijok, thank you very much. Thank you as always, financial consultant, Molin London and consultant as well, on the line every day to, of course, most days to give us an update as to what is going on in those circles. At this time, I'm going to present a news conference of the United Workers' Party that took place earlier today. We started with the leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine. Stick around. We're going to allow the 3 persons in the studio to, of course, expound on the DJ Slim presents issue of reconfirmation. So let's
because questions have been asked as to whether we have the capacity or capabilities to welcome and take care of the intended group of persons.
Let's go back to the beginning of that one there. Sorry about that. Going back.
The Prime Minister to reveal to the Dominican public all of the details of the agreement that was made with the U.S. authorities. It is important to do so because questions have been asked as to whether we have the capacity or capabilities to welcome and take care of the intended group of persons. We are also seeking answers from the Prime Minister as to how he plans to prevent a full travel ban to be imposed on Dominica from the United States government after the expiration of the 6 months of being under a partial ban. It is important that our government works with the U.S. authorities to address the many areas of concern surrounding our CBI program. It is the reckless actions of the Prime Minister that has got us to this place. Failure to urgently address these concerns around the CBI could spell disaster for our country. It is useful to remind Dominicans that for countries whose citizens are undergoing a full travel ban, American citizens are often warned not to travel to those destinations. If that were to take place in Dominica, it could spell the end of our cruise ship industry and be a devastating blow to our tourism industry. So, my fellow Dominicans, a lot is at stake. We are indeed at the crossroads. Unfortunately, at the hour of our greatest need, where it calls for calm, steady leadership, there is none. The Prime Minister, just 3 weeks ago, at the ALBA Virtual Summit in Venezuela, praised the dictator Maduro, a man who over his 12-year rule jailed his opponents, disappeared others, and stole elections. The Prime Minister told Maduro, and I quote, "This is not the time to be afraid." I wonder what he would say to Maduro today. He continued to blast U.S. imperialism while coddling up to a dictator. The longest serving prime minister in the region has zero influence on his fellow leaders in CARICOM. Weak and ineffective leadership is in stark display. This decided lack of focus and dismal failure proves that Prime Minister Skerrit is not up to the task of bringing stability, growth, and good governance to Dominica. And now I believe is a good time for him to go. Instead, our country, already dragged down under the weight of poverty, rising crime and violence, and a looming ecological disaster in Debwash, continues to lurch from side to side like a battered ship in stormy seas and in the hands of a clueless captain. Worse, one who has really fallen asleep at the wheel. Thanks to the Prime Minister, who ensured that we were placed on a partial ban list for our citizens entering the United States, we learned just yesterday that anyone wishing to get a B1 or B2 visa beginning in January of 2026 will need to deposit a visa bond, possibly as much as 42,000 EC dollars in hard dry cash with the US government before the visa can be issued. These individuals are also expected to only enter the United States through 3 ports of entry: Washington, New York, and Boston. So, for example, Dominicans traveling to St. Croix and St. Thomas under these new rules would have to go first to the mainland and then come down to St. Thomas and St. Croix. This is clearly a government, the fellow Dominicans, that has failed the poor people of this country. Because I can tell you the majority of Dominicans do not have $42,000 sitting around to be able to put up to go to the United States. This stunning failure by the Prime Minister at both the regional and international levels is matched only by his clumsy attempts to jail his opponents here in Dominica and to make a mockery of our electoral system. As we speak today, thousands of Dominican voters are unable to confirm their names on the voters list because the Prime Minister believes that he can somehow get an unfair advantage by putting passports in the hands of his supporters, while hoping that the opposition forces will not be able to do the same. We have seen this duck before. It's dressed up differently this time, not in the form of chartered flights from the US and that are bringing in mostly illegal voters to guarantee a win, but in preventing potentially thousands of voters from confirming. So it still quacks very much and moves and sways very much like a duck. This is a national crisis, and an urgent action is needed right now by the Electoral Commission to right this wrong. The Electoral Commission must reintroduce the birth certificates and picture IDs to allow for confirmation. They must also immediately restart the new registrations to allow the thousands of young people who have just turned 18 and who are anxious to get rid of this government to be able to register to vote in the next elections. So let us not continue to attract the world's attention to all of the wrong things. A dangerous CBI program, a malfunctioning electoral system, a wannabe dictator, I must say, because in his attempts to try to jail his opponents and behave very much like Maduro in Venezuela. We need to continue to demand good governance and demand that the institutions that have been set up to guarantee this good governance are operating in the best interest of the Dominican public. The government of Dominica, the Prime Minister, must stop his attempts to steal future elections. And to do that, we are calling for the immediate reinstatement of birth certificates that will allow the confirmation process to proceed and allow every single Dominican who wants to confirm to be able to do so. I want to thank you, and I open now for any questions that you may have.
Dr. Thompson, of the Electoral Commission, and they're taking action. I heard from many listeners. The questions are coming up. That there's a lack, if you will, for a better term, of response from the United Workers' Party, of course, the main opposition force in Dominica, to take action. What is the kind of action that you're willing to take at this point?
Well,
instead of just talking, what is the kind of action you have?
What kind of action are they talking about that we should be taking? What's the action that they say that we
hitting the streets, going around the country and telling people what is really going on? Because a lot of people don't understand the crisis.
Well, we have taken the action, or we have started to go around Dominica. We were in the constituency of Dillis on Saturday. We'll continue with that this week in the village or in the constituency of St. Joseph, and every week after that we'll be in different areas of Dominica. We are also planning a major national rally on the 1st of February in Grand Fork, where we'll bring Dominicans from all over the island to Grand Fork and send a very strong message to the government of Dominica on those very same issues that we're addressing here this morning. The question of hitting of the streets, I know we have been there before. We've had people who call very loudly for that. In fact, the last time we tried that, I need to remind our listeners, was in March of 2019, when we were able to raise the resources, mobilize the people, and instead of thousands, we got a few hundred. So I suspect our people, they talk a very good talk sometimes, but at the end of the day, they need to show the action. We are prepared to lead, and when we do so, we hope that they will follow us. Okay? We are not ruling out any type of action, because we believe that these situations are very, very serious. The partial ban is a very serious one. The influx of persons we don't know from where to Dominica is also not a very serious one. And let me just say on that issue of persons coming into Dominica, we have seen that other countries that have accepted, for example, the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda was very clear that his country can absorb these individuals. They have opportunities for them. We cannot say the same for Dominica. What are you going to do? Are they going to be working in Dominica? Where? What kind of jobs will be open up to them? Who are the people coming? Are they going to be making demands on the state for livelihoods and so on? So these are serious issues that we have to address. So yes, we stand ready to take any action that we think is appropriate. And the only thing that I would ask is that the people of Dominica, when those actions are taken, that they really support us. Okay, we would like to see, for example, if we decide to go on the streets, that the people of Dominica rally around and come out on the streets. Okay, so that is our hope. And like I said, we are prepared to do everything within our power and legally to ensure that the message goes out to this Prime Minister. But and that's why we're working on all sorts of fronts. No matter what happens, at the end of the day, we must revert back to elections. And that is the reason why we keep insisting that the electoral process must be guaranteed. And the Electoral Commission must do its work to ensure that we have these clean voters list that will allow us to choose the government that we want.
Recently, you announced, Mr. Thompson, Dr. Thompson, that you might be on your way to, or you will be on your way to Washington this month to meet with the necessary officials, if you will, to speak to the crisis, looking for answers. Are you still headed to Washington?
Yes, Matt, I'm still working on that. We're in the process of getting some appointments sorted out. And as soon as that is done, I will do that. I think it's very important that we engage the U.S. government. I think it's very important, and I want to make it clear, not on behalf of the government of Dominica. We are not acting on behalf of the government of Dominica. We are acting as a responsible opposition that needs information that we're not getting from our Prime Minister. And I believe that we are in a position to be able to talk to the authorities in Washington to get the necessary information that we can then inform the Dominican public. I think that's very important. And also important for us is for us to be able to talk to the people of Dominica as to what is required, what exactly is going on, and the kind of action that we must take to remedy those situations.
Another question, I don't want to be dominated, but another question to you, sir, is we've heard many calls for, at this stage, for the Prime Minister to step down or resign. Do you support this call?
But yes, I think the Prime Minister has shown his inability to lead, especially at this time, because the country, like I said, is in crisis mode. Our people, after having this very long relationship with Canada, with the United Kingdom, with Ireland, with Norway, with the EU, all of that is going on the wayside. And there's a potential for tremendous hardship on the people of Dominica. He's mismanaged the CVI program after the infusion of literally billions of dollars from the sale of our passports. There is very little to show for it. Yes, there were a few apartments here and there. We are told that there is an airport being built from this, but there are questions around that. So there is very little to show for it. And especially now, the program appears to be on its way out. And we see very little. So we see a prime minister who's failed after 25 years, as I said. I mean, after 25 years, you don't even command the respect of your fellow leaders in the country. That speaks a lot. That speaks a lot. You should be able now, given the length of time you're there, that when you speak, all of the region listens. That's not the case. No one listens to the prime minister. And increasingly, he's losing support there within his country. So I think it's really a time for him to consider that. I think after 20 years, he does show every sign of being tired. And Matthew, you saw him. I'm sure you saw his body language at the press conference. That is not a man that is confident, no longer confident. That's not a man that is self-assured and cocky as he used to be in previous press conferences. So something clearly has changed. And the question to the Dominican public is what? What exactly is happening now? And so these are answers I believe that the Dominican public should know. And that's the reason why we believe by reaching out ourselves to the American authorities, we can get some of those answers.
You speak specifically of the Prime Minister. What about the members? Because the other members of cabinet, his government seem to be very silent. What is your take on that, though?
Well, the problem is that what has happened is that the cabinet of the Prime Minister has not been allowed to function as a cabinet. In the sense that you don't hear, who is the Minister of Agriculture? I don't even know who the Minister of Agriculture is, right, because I don't hear him speak on matters of agriculture. I don't hear the Foreign Affairs Minister address the issues that are going on. I don't hear the Minister of Health. To be quite honest, I mean, I say that, but I honestly don't even quote Mr. Right. I have not heard him. So the fact of the matter is, this current cabinet has not spoken as responsible or independent persons within their own areas. The Prime Minister speaks on behalf of everybody, of all of his ministers, and that has weakened them to the point where they have very little voice. Even to the point where the Prime Minister can change them tomorrow and nobody will miss them, which is what he's done in the past. He brings you on, he dispatches you, and nobody said, "Oh, but where is that minister? He was so good in his ministry. I wish he was there." You don't hear that, because they effectively have been neutralized in this cabinet. Now, let me make it clear: a cabinet under my leadership will not be run the same way. I will empower the ministers to do their work. I want the Minister of Agriculture to be the authority when it comes to matters of dealing with agriculture. I want the Minister of Health and Housing and whatever to be the authority in those areas to address those issues and to speak with the full authority and guidance and support of me as the leader. So, it's a different style of leadership. It's a different style of leadership. I mean, trying to burden yourself with all of these responsibilities has not worked. It has been a one-man show up and down this country. It has clearly not worked. And see where that has brought us, to a place where, Dominica is a laughing stock. Imagine 5 Caribbean countries with CBI programs. Some of them are as bad in terms of the residency and everything else, the vetting, as us. And yet Dominica is the one that is suffering. So that should tell you a lot. So I believe that people need to understand that the blame for where we are today is clearly at the feet of the Prime Minister of Dominica. He must take the responsibility.
Dr. Thompson, I want to go back to the issue of, the refugees and, of course, CBI and the reasons why we are facing that visa ban. What is your take as to why you glossed over it a little minute ago? Why is Dominica and Antigua? Why do you think we are the countries being faced with this issue?
Well, anything I can see now is pure speculation, and as I said, it's important for us to hear directly from the U.S. authorities. It is pure speculation, but it does appear to have more to do with the broader geopolitics of the region and the influences that we see throughout the region. Because if you look at what Dominica and Antigua and Barbuda has in common outside of those of St. Lucia and St. Kitts and Nevis, it's really their alliance, if you like, with the Chinese. And it is worthy of note that the United States government just today, is demanding that the Venezuelan government dismiss, or as they say, kick out, the term that the US government have used, kick out the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians and the Cubans out of their country. We've seen, for example, that in Antigua and Barbuda, which faces a similar problem than us, the Prime Minister has already moved to remove the Cubans out of his country. And you have to ask yourself, is something similar going to happen here in Dominica? So it does appear it has more to do than just the CBI program itself, but certainly some geopolitical considerations.
So you think we are caught between the devil and the blue sea at this time? Do you think at some point we'll have to face the reality, maybe China or America?
But it's quite possible. It is possible. In fact, it's not too long ago that same ultimatum was given by the U.S. government, right? They said you have to choose your friends, choose which side you are. So I think that might be becoming a lot more prevalent now. It certainly will be a lot more on the agenda, I believe, in terms of choosing one side or the other.
Don't you think that would put you as a new government in a difficult position?
But at the end of the day, I believe every government should be given a right to exercise its own sovereignty and be able to decide who its friends are. I think in the world of politics, we really should not be necessarily be taking sides. It's important that what should drive our foreign policy agenda is what is best for our country. I think that's what we have to place at the center of any decisions that we take. And that's the reason why I have said repeatedly that the United Workers' Party Team Dominica government will when dealing with the Chinese, for example, will ensure that any contracts that the Chinese may hold has to have some guarantees for our local population. We have to ensure that any type of contracts, any type of relationship that is built with any country, that at the heart of this is the interest of the Dominican Republic. And we have not seen that with this government, unfortunately. We have seen contracts where foreigners are brought in from Thailand, from St. Lucia, from Jamaica, everywhere else but Dominica. Our young men are sitting on the roadside whilst young men from other countries are getting employment here in Dominica. So this is a very strange and messed up policy that this government has adopted, because it is bringing increasing hardships on our country. So at the end of the day, yes, we might have the project, but we do not reap the benefits of those projects. And so that is something that we will change. And one way of doing that is to ensure that whatever relationship that you build, that is built up, it is built on this principle that our country comes first.
It means, Mr. Fontaine, that our very major international airport being, of course, talked about by the Prime Minister may be in jeopardy. It means that CBI is closing down, as you say, you enter in a precipice. But they're coming from China. I mean, that's going to be a very difficult decision to make.
Well, but I hope for the sake of the country that the project is completed. I think it's a good project for our country. I would like to see I would like to see this in place. In fact, I was just talking a few days ago. I was talking to a gentleman in Florida about the possibility of tomatoes, of producing tomatoes for the market, for the export market there in Florida. This is a very big distributor of tomatoes. And one of the things that we talked about is the availability of transportation and an international airport to Lake. We cannot send tomatoes via boat, right? It has to go by cargo plane. So we need an international airport for the development of our agriculture sector, for the development of our tourism product. And so I hope that this project is completed. The Prime Minister has said repeatedly that the money is coming from the CBI program. I am hoping and expecting that this money has been set aside. After all, we have sold enough passports in the past to have this money put aside. In fact, he even when when he reported in Parliament that there was a fund, an airport fund, money was being put into it. So I would expect that this money is there and available to complete works at the airport.
Yeah, Dr. Fontaine, good morning. Good morning.
We'll come back to that a little later there. Once we're taking a break and come back, Dominica. Taking a break.
DJ Slim presents Shrink with Intent, the ultimate white solid headphones party, Volume 2. Volume 2. Featuring Dominica's finest, DJ Snow, Selector Irma, DJ Red, DJ Flip the Boss, DJ Day, Mika Labadi, DJ Ati, and DJ Slim after party with Al Willis, YouTube sensation, DJ Style, Your Barbie Faithy, and Dominica's world touring DJ MJ. It's all going down on the Realm, January 17th from 9 p.m. Admission, early bird $60, tier 2 for $80, and tier 3 $100. Tickets sold at Cozy Corner or online at ticketball.com. Drink with Intent, the ultimate all-white solid headwood party volume 2. It's gonna be crazy. This event is sponsored by Belfast Estate, PB Rock, Islamic Authority, Southern Lakes Hotel, Big W, Research IGA, Milwaukee, Pirates Limited, Serrano, Hennessy, Malibu, KFC, DJ Median, K-Bits, Vibes Radio, Humble Visual, Masterfan, Magnum Tonic Wine, Chef Ali, GBA Enterprises, Bounty Rum, Chimman's Reserve, DDA Styles Travel, The Rel, Cozy Corner, The Vibe, High Garden Limited, Mika's Courtyard, Mika Henderson Inc., One Temps Bar and Grill.
Whoa! It's all about Calypso quarterfinals on Saturday, 17th January 2026 at 8:30 p.m. at the Faction Valley Road. 32 Calypsonians backed up by the Swingsters Band. Early bird tickets is only $30 online at Eventbrite. General admission $50. Sitting $60. VIP $100. Don't forget the date, January 17th, 2026 at 8:30 p.m. It's all about Calypso, Calypso, Calypso. Calypso quarterfinals sponsored by Flo Dominica, Josephine Gabriel, Topita Water, Coca-Cola, Henneken Beer, Discover Dominica Authority, John the Bay, Domlet, Fresh Market, Do It Center, BB Rum, Big Edge, Perkins Pizza, ICWI, Vibian TV, Kyrie FM, BBS Radio, Vines Radio, and QFM. There's some you got to be there.
DJ Slim presents Drink with Intent, the ultimate white silent headphones party, Volume 2, featuring Dominica's finest, DJ Snow, Selector Urban, DJ Ren, DJ Flip the Boss, DJ Day, Mika Labadee, DJ Ati, and DJ Slim after party with Aunt Willa's YouTube sensation, DJ Styles, your Barbie Faithy, and Dominica's World Touring DJ MJ. It's all going down at the Realm, January 17th from 9 p.m. Admission, early bird $60, tier 2 $80, and tier 3 $100. Tickets sold at Cozy Corner or online at ticketball.com. Drink with Intent, the ultimate all-white solid headwood party volume 2. It's gonna be crazy. This event is sponsored by Belfast Estate, BB Rum, Discover Dominica Authority, Someplace Hotel, Big W, Research IGA, Milwaukee, Pirates Limited, Serrano, Hennessy, Malibu, KFC, DJ Median, K-Bits, Vibes Radio, Amble Visual, Master Fan, Magnum Tonic Wine, Chef Ali, GBA Enterprises, Bounty Rum, Chimman's Reserve, DDA Styles Travel, The Rel, Cozy Corner, The Vibe, High Garden Limited, Mika's Courtyard, Mika Henderson Inc., One Temps Bar and Grill.
Need one trusted place to stock up for your home, shop, or business? Fine Foods Inc. Distribution has got you covered. From dry goods and frozen foods to your favorite drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, plus all the household must-have. We've got it all under one roof. We're right here in Jimmy Dominica. And yes, we deliver fast. Whether you're running a supermarket, a corner shop, a bar, or just like your pantry full and happy, Fine Foods Inc. brings you the best brands you know and love. Great prices, top-tier service, trusted products. At 255-6810 or 316-0164, or drop by our Jimmy location to check out what's in store. Fine Foods Inc.
Fine Foods Inc., the biggest distributor for the biggest brand.
After working hard for many years in London, Goldwyn is now retired and back living in Dominica enjoying his pension. He too shook a smile so we can see the gold teeth and too shook a young. I met him coming out of Floss's with the help of some staff carrying different foods, drinks, and meats to his vehicle. Myself too fast to go and ask the man what's up. Is their story start? Après moi fini travail ouais, so that Kadimo de San Dominic pour fini la hamwe. I said, Goldwyn, speak in English, don't force it. Then he said, I shop with intelligence, yeah? At Floss's, you get the most reasonable prices. Quarter bag flour, rice, sugar, milk, beers, soft drinks, water, rum, and so much more. Prices and quantities to fit your needs, mate. Because you just come down and want to tell me what I know about Floss's already. That's where I shop. It's not you alone that want to save money but still get the quality goods. That's right. And if you're listening to this ad, go and check out Floss's for yourself. Next to the Roseau Market, you can't miss it.
Now opened on Sunday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Ooh, oh, oh, KFC. Ooh, oh, KFC. Looking for some place to go. Meals for soul. KFC. Grab your family and your friends. Join in the experience. KFC. It's the place to be. Made for you and me. KFC. KFC. It's finger licking good.
Exciting news from AutoTrade. Incredible savings are here. Take advantage of AutoTrade's Thrifty Thursday promotion. Mark your calendars. On the last Thursday of each month, AutoTrade is offering up to 20% off items throughout the store. Yes, 20% off. But wait, here's more. Keep your eyes peeled for our exclusive Deal of the Day offer, bringing you even bigger discounts on select items. Whether you're looking for car accessories, maintenance essentials, or just browsing for a great deal, we've got you covered. So be sure to swing by AutoTrade every last Thursday. At AutoTrade, it's more than a vehicle, it's a relationship. Terms and conditions apply.
I see Goldwyn shopping for farming supplies. So I ask him, what are you doing inside Bloombox? You have a farm? He tell me, that's how tell sort. I've been married 37 years. Look at my money farm. He said, no, not woman. Like land for farming crops. And then he understand. Bloombox is the most affordable on island. Knapsacks starting at only $57.71. Elsewhere, it's $300 plus. Cutlass seeds, seeding trays, nursery pots, sales of potting mix, all at way better prices than anywhere else. Fertilizers, 3-in-1 multi-tool, and so much more. Located on Federation Drive, Goodwill. Second property on the right after the Valley Link Road and on the corner of Drury Lane and Hanover Street in Rosal. Bloombox. Let's bloom together.
And of course, at this time, we're going to allow the president of the United Workers Party at this news conference to speak to some of the issues.
For these very interesting questions, many questions, I must say, and thank you for the answer. I would also, in closing, like to join my political leader in asking for the resignation of the Prime Minister. And I would want to say it in the local of languages, using his own words, and also using the local parlance. Gangsters don't switch, and gangsters don't snitch. World bosses don't snitch, and world bosses don't switch. What we saw in the press conference on Monday, the Prime Minister, is a very weak negotiator, one who has compromised the friendship we have with international countries like China and Venezuela, that we have had relationships since in the 1980s after our independence. And to take a side in a geopolitical war that should not be ours. It should be pro-Dominican, patriotic, which is what we in this side of the political aisle believe, that Dominica should always come first. And when we see that kind of maneuvering at the top, it shows very weak leadership. And as such, we have been compromised in our sovereignty, in the protection of our own territorial boundaries, bringing in refugees. We have no idea under what conditions we make those deals to bring them in. That is a breakdown of our sovereignty, also our territorial boundaries. And we cannot allow somebody to continue to lead that country that way, because we have a lot of rebuilding to do. We have to rebuild trust among international friends. We have to go in and build trust among our own people, because clearly there was no parliamentary approval of those arguments. The people were not informed. I'm not even sure the cabinet of government were informed. So I'd like to join my political leader in his call for the resignation of the Prime Minister, and I want to call Dominicans as well to put yourself first and call for the resignation of Roosevelt Skerry. It's time that he leave. He has compromised our country too much. We have warned him in the past, and he went on recklessly and greedily, I must add, to make those decisions that put us in that dilemma at this point. So we need to get the people of Dominica to open up their eyes, see what is happening to us, and let us step up and ask for the resignation of Roosevelt Skerry.
also what your leader said earlier. A lot of pressure on the opposition, not only you, but the opposition generally, to do more. In other words, some people say you guys have been given a Christmas gift with all the issues, and they need you to be seen or heard a little more.
Yeah. So leadership now in that dispensation map needs wisdom. And I think our political leader now is blessed with wisdom. We pray for him every day for wisdom. It requires reason and good judgment. And we in the United Workers' Party will not rush in an emotional way, in an irresponsible way. We'll take our time to make the decisions, to inform the people on those decisions. I know the people are hurting. We understand that. But as a mature team that we are putting together to run the affairs of the country at any other election, we're going to be wise, we're going to be reasonable and calculated in what we take. And we listen to the people, and at the appropriate time, we'll take the necessary actions. So that is what I would say to respond to the question, and to thank the media. Imo News, I see Q95 is there, DBS is also there. Thank you for coming to this press conference, and to thank the people who listen. DNO, sorry, I apologize. Wise FM is also there. And I would really thank you for coming, and thank the people who listen. And yeah, I said DBS. And to the people of Dominica, to keep inquiring, keep investigating, because there's a lot of hidden messages. We as a government would definitely have negotiated this deal differently with the United States. Our healthcare is in shambles, or we have garbage collection issues. We have a lot of issues. We have environmental issues in our country that we could have leveraged in such agreements with the United States of America. And we didn't see that. We didn't hear that from the Prime Minister. So we as the people have a lot to wake up to, and a lot to be aware of. So thank you again, the media, for coming, and thank you again for joining the United Workers' Party in such an important press conference. All the best.
Dominica, very interesting now. Claudia Sanford, the president of the Dominica United Workers' Party, giving support to his leader. Before we take a phone calls, I want to repeat an exclusive interview with Ms. Sherman Bick out of the Antigua News that she did with the Prime Minister of Antigua, Mr. Gaston Brown, explaining why and the details of this refugee agreement signed recently by Gaston Brown and Mr. Roosevelt Scott.
In what Prime Minister Gaston Brown describes as an act of goodwill and international solidarity, the government of Antigua and Barbuda has entered into a memorandum of understanding with the United States of America to accept no more than 10 refugees. The agreement first became public during the Prime Minister's weekly radio program on Point FM, where he indicated that the decision had been made several weeks ago following diplomatic level discussions. Since that disclosure, the announcement has generated mixed reactions locally, with some members of the public and figures within the political opposition raising questions about the rationale, implications, and transparency surrounding the arrangement. Responding to concerns, Prime Minister Gaston Brown has sought to reassure the public that the agreement carries no hidden agenda. He emphasized that the MOU is part of a broader international framework endorsed by more than 100 countries, designed to provide limited humanitarian assistance under clearly defined terms.
What has happened, the United States has been called upon over the decades to accommodate a disproportionate amount of refugees. We have said to them that we will take a limited amount, up to a maximum of 10, provided that they have no criminal background and on the basis that they have skills. So the agreement that we signed was literally a memorandum of understanding that we stand in solidarity with the United States and recognizing our limited capacity. we could not consider taking more than 10. It may not even be as many as 10, but again, as I said, we're doing this out of solidarity with the United States and to show goodwill.
Speaking with Antigua.news, the Prime Minister stressed that the agreement does not obligate the country to accept individuals indiscriminately. Instead, he noted that Antigua and Barbuda retains full discretion under the MOU to accept or decline any refugee, ensuring that national interest, security considerations, and capacity constraints remain paramount.
We've indicated to them that we do not have the capacity to take on criminal elements, and they understand that. And the agreement that we signed is a memorandum of understanding that gives us the sole discretion as to whether or not we wish to accept or to reject. Clearly, we'll be very responsible. In fact, 90 days ago, we would have written to them indicating a willingness to participate. This is before we signed the agreement about 2 weeks ago. And we would have said to them that whereas we'll participate, we will not accept any criminal elements in our country from third-party countries. Clearly, if we have Antiguans and Barbudans who are deported, even if they are criminal elements, then we have an obligation to take them back, because at the end of the day, they're Antiguans and Barbudans. So this is not a contentious issue, really, and it's just a typical opposition rhetoric trying to score political points in which they are trying to create hysteria within the society.
Antigua and Barbuda is not alone in this venture. Neighboring island Dominica also agreed to the refugee agreement. Roosevelt carried that country's prime minister broke the news at a press conference on Monday.
The United States and the Commonwealth of Dominica has entered into an agreement to facilitate third country refugees to be sent to Dominica to mitigate scenarios where the United States cannot return these individuals to a state of birth or origin. In our discussions with the State Department, there have been careful deliberations of the need to avoid receiving violent individuals or individuals who will compromise the security of Dominica. This has been acknowledged and well received by the State Department.
As the regional conversation unfolds, the refugee MOU places Antigua and Barbuda within a wider global moment, one where small states are increasingly asked to balance compassion with capacity and sovereignty with solidarity. For Prime Minister Gaston Brown, the message is clear. This is not about obligation, but choice. And in that choice lies a broader national conversation about who we are and how we engage with the world beyond our shores. This has been a production of Antigua.news. I am Charmaine Big Charles.
Dominican Charmaine Big Charles of Antigua News. Of course, we're making the news for the wrong reason internationally. We are in the news. Times newspaper has reported this incident as well. I'll try to play that for you in a little while. But we can take your phone calls at this time, 449-3095-96 and 97. All right, Dominica, here we are at 2:17 in the afternoon. It's crucial times. And I take note of the new visa applicants can only enter the United States from, I know that 3 countries, but I can just remember for now 2. So you need to go to Boston or New York. So if you're flying to St. Croix now or St. Thomas, you need to go first to Boston and maybe fly back down or New York. Making things very, very difficult. On the telephone, hello, talk to me, yes?
Oh yes, Matt. Very difficult because I've done those routes. I've not leave States and go to centers, but it's difficult. Very, very difficult. I would leave New York and go up to Boston for a week. Leave Boston and go down to Tampa for a week. But that is plenty different Matt, you know Roosevelt Skerrit has not done nothing good for Dominica. All he did was destroy the country. Destroying a country like that. First was you destroy agriculture, plus others. And now that is what you are doing to Dominicans. I'm watching to see if I live to see the next election. Let me see stupid Dominicans vote that man in again. Too cool. Thank you.
All right, thank you too. Thank you. Yes, I was reporting to you earlier that we are even in the news, making the news on New York Times again, making the news for the wrong reasons. Huh?
Agree to host people seeking asylum in U.S. This article is by Emiliano Rodriguez Mega and read by an automated voice. Two small Caribbean nations, Dominica and Antigua and Barbuda, said on Monday that they had agreed to start receiving foreign nationals seeking asylum in the United States. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit of Dominica told reporters at a news conference that his country and the United States had signed an agreement to facilitate third country refugees to be sent to Dominica. He added that concerns about receiving violent people or individuals who would compromise the security of the island nation were acknowledged and well received by the U.S. State Department. It is unclear how many people Dominica is willing to accept or from which countries, and Mr. Skerrit did not go into detail about any kind of housing plan for them. But with a population of roughly 66,000 and limited resources, the island would not be able to receive big groups of asylum seekers. The United States is very mindful of our smallness, our size, our resources, Mr. Skerrit said. Also on Monday, Prime Minister Gaston Brown of Antigua and Barbuda said on social media that his administration had signed a non-binding memorandum of understanding with the United States to accept non-criminal refugees, but with no commitment to specific quotas. He added that the agreement could be terminated at any time at his country's discretion. The announcements came after the United States imposed travel restrictions and visa bans, which took effect on January 1st, on the two countries. In an email, the State Department said it remained unwavering in our commitment to end illegal and mass immigration and bolster America's border security, but it said it would not discuss the details of our diplomatic communications with other governments. Mr. Brown said that his country would only accept 10 asylum seekers per year. He added that talks were underway with the United States to restore normal visa issuance and renewals for his country's nationals. Despite the timing of the agreement and the travel restrictions, Mr. Brown said, "This was not a concession, nor an attempt to trade people or curry favor. It was a measured diplomatic gesture." In Dominica, some greeted the news of the new deal with the U.S. with skepticism. With unemployment and underemployment already challenging many Dominican families, how will these deportees earn a livelihood? Joshua Francis, the leader of a rising opposition party in the country, said in a statement, "Where will these deportees be accommodated?" The announcements come at a time of deep divisiveness in the Caribbean over recent U.S. actions, including lethal strikes on boats and the military raid in Venezuela. While some regional leaders have condemned them as extrajudicial, others have openly embraced them. Both Dominica and Antigua and Barbuda were targeted by the U.S. State Department due to concerns over their so-called citizenship by investment programs, or golden passport programs. Through these programs, wealthy individuals can acquire citizenship for a cost, with minimum investments ranging from $200,000 to $250,000, according to Immigrant Invest, a consulting company on Caribbean citizenship programs. In the Caribbean, specifically, these schemes have become a multi-billion-dollar industry that funds everything from new hospitals and schools to climate resilience projects. But they have prompted concerns over transparency, corruption, and local inflation and housing shortages. According to President Trump's order partially suspending visa entry for Dominica and Antigua and Barbuda, similar programs have been susceptible to several risks, such as allowing an individual to conceal his or her identity and assets to circumvent travel restrictions or financial or banking restrictions. In 2023, a transnational investigation led by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project found that Dominica had sold citizenship to thousands of people, including a Turkish millionaire convicted of fraud, Saddam Hussein's top nuclear scientist and a former Afghan spy master.
This is Nick Kristoff.
All right, Dominica. Making the news, as I said, for the wrong reasons, huh? Picked up by the New York Times. Don't say. We have not warned you for many years. Hello, talk to me on the telephone, yes.
Not just for you to sleep, you have to take 10 Valium.
Valium, yes.
Valium. That is true, no? They say since after my zero cannot sleep. Anyway, Matt, let me say something. Matt, you know me. And those who don't know me, if you don't know me by now, you will never, never know me. Matt, I listened to the press conference. Claudius, I love you. I respect you as a friend and as an indigenous man. Matt, I have saying nothing is better than anything else, or no one is better than anyone else. Everyone is as good as themselves. Everyone within the time, space, and existence serves their purpose. You can be older. You can be wiser than, but never think you're better than. And what happened then within the opposition, UWP, it merited the actions that took place. And now we're in a better dispensation for us to be more effective. I am not saying wisdom is not merited in that predicament. We are at the crossroads. Dr. Fontaine, stop talking about the failures of UWP then or the perceived failures. The time is right now for success, my brother. So you see that talk about, oh, you have done it then and put the resources together. Now maybe all you need less resources, but I'm saying more. Because we need triple K, we need CK, we need, why did they map? How did they signal when they go in? Signal who?
Signal 1.
Signal when you're reversing or going forward?
Signal band.
Signal band. Matt, you hear the new song out there? Yes, I. Every day is a what? Matt, another something. That's great. We need high grade. We need alcohol. And we need transportation because Dominicans are poorer than a popo. Matt, I am just saying many things there. The so-called international airport, Matt, we say is our passport money. Matt, recently there you heard the Chinese ambassador claiming they are the ones that are building the airport for us, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that, Matt?
Yep.
Matt, it's an illegal construction because there was no EIA. Claiming one thing about Dominica passport money and the Chinese saying something else. So there is nothing about a proper procedure or measures that were taken to build that Chinese base they call in an international airport. Matt, I spoke to a geologist. I talked to a friend who have a friend, Matt, that is an engineer. And his company have built airports. He's from St. Joe, Matt. He visited lately. He went up and tell me, watch that, and he checked in. But where the airport is going, where they're going to build the airport, because his friend came down to Dominica, he's not Dominican, and went up and watched the site, Matt. So, Matt, all these dirty little games, and I will say that in conclusion, my friend. Matt, when Pierre Charles and Rosie Douglas, Matt, I am still quite suspicious about the quick succession of their demise, Matt. Because remember, under Pierre Charles' administration, Skerritt secretly took off and went to Barbados and met with the Chinese premier as a junior minister under the Pierre Charles or in the Pierre Charles administration. They said Pierre Charles did not want to fire him because, it was how they call it, a coalition, Matt? A collision? Mm-hmm. A coalition. And it was labor and freedom, and he did not want to ruffle feathers. Skerritt might cross the floor. They say he and Vince always wanted to cross the floor. Matt, that boy break diplomatic relations with Taiwan in an instant. There was a check of how much millions of dollars. They said the ink was not even dry. When he went at the back of Taiwan and form diplomatic relations with China. Not you seeing the trend? Not when you're dealing with a juvenile, delinquent, puerile, inexperienced, insane, delusional creature. That's what you will get, my boys with toys. And now, all what the US is doing, not, if you meet a crab and you just step on it, you take the crab out of its misery, man. Can you imagine you take the crab, you put it in a barrel, and every day you break in a piece of it, the pinchers, breaking a little piece of the thing, taking a nail, punch a hole in it back. And that's what the US is doing to those idiots that talking about we are too skilled for that Gaston, mustache, Hitler, brown paper bag, talking his foolishness like as if they're so sophisticated, greater than Europe and America in sophistication. They will take us apart, Matt. Piece by piece by piece, like they take my toes. I'm at 1, 2, 3, and they start to go. So don't worry with them, Matt. Let them think. And you Dominicans who think nothing good can come from Roosevelt Skerrit, keep dreaming. And Matt, in conclusion, Matt, I want you to set up like the other day when you were asking for some credit to be given to them if they have done something good. What was the word you were looking for, Matt? To give them a little credit or something like that. Matt, ask every caller of yours, do you think the Prime Minister should resign? Or just say, every caller that called, tell me if it's yes or no. Skerrit have to resign, Matt. The man destroy the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Somebody's asking, Matt, how is it possible that when there are no direct flights to Boston or New York, well, you can go through Antigua, definitely, and I'm not talking about direct men into New York. You can take a flight to St. Lucia and go to New York directly. So you can use that route, or you go to Antigua, or you can go to St. Martin and take a flight to New York or Boston. That you can do. Both flights from Dominica this time to Newark Airport is, if you're using the other airline. But unless you're using a charter, I don't think there are any direct flights. But this is what they're saying. If you must enter that port, you must enter Washington or New York or Boston. If you just got your visa, you can go the other way when you pass through those ports. But you first have to get to Boston, New York, or Washington. That's how difficult they're making this at this time. I'm talking about those who just is applying for a new visa. And there's a $5,000 bond, or 15,000 US, almost 42,000 EC dollars. Who's going to afford that? Which one of you have that kind of money sitting in your account? Hello, talk to me. Yes, are you there?
Good afternoon, man.
Good afternoon to you. Yes.
Matt, you know what is a short day? And you know the difference between a short day and a canaway?
Tell me.
Short day is the big black pot, and a canaway is the kettle.
Okay.
So the short day is always darker than the kettle. The kettle may be a little dark from the bottom, but Matt, Roosevelt Skerrit was telling his supporters to call the opposition traitor. Wherever you see them, call them traitor. You remember that, Matt?
Of course.
But Matt, what kind of action was that when, as a junior minister, he went to Barbados and met with the Chinese, Matt? What kind of action was that? Didn't he also make some kind of statement alluding to the fact that someone was committing some kind of treachery or some kind of word like that against the government?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of action was that when he went to Barbados and met with the Chinese? Was that treachery? What's the other word, Matt? When you commit the greatest crime against the nation?
You're talking about treason? That's what you're talking about?
Treason, Matt. Thank you very much. Was it treason when Roosevelt Skerrit went and met with the Chinese? And he's talking about people committing treason and people committing, other things that he's accused them of, calling them traitor. What is wrong with that guy? That guy has to go. We need to remove him as the prime minister. I would say it this way. He deserves to resign as prime minister. He's done enough to qualify as a person who should resign as the prime minister, man. Enough said.
Enough said. I haven't heard this one there in a while. Somebody just reminded me this one.
I, Dominica, can talk. I arise from my sabbatical. I am under siege, facing the test. Treacherous attacks by rulers of darkness choking my soul, my very breath. They exploit and disturb my sanctity. Yes, I, Dominica, can talk with clarity. I, Dominica, have to talk because my back is weary. With filthy load, too heavy to carry. A new wave of slavery torments me. I see murder, treason, deception, bribery, afflicting me with burdens of horrific iniquity. I must vomit the venom from my belly. I, Dominica, must talk before it's too late. My waters brewing with bitterness, envy, hate, stenches of threats blowing in the air. The monarch in the palace does not seem to care. My womb is troubled, travailing in agony when I see underhand deals extending quietly. Gangsters and rebels shamelessly prostitute me, selling my birthright to Tom, Dick, and Harry. My garment is filthy and stained with blood. I am tired of abuse. Hear my cry, O Lord. I, Dominica, must talk when sacrifice of human and animal growing religiously. Diabolical powers flutter over my little territory. Conniving schemes embezzle my sovereignty. Tourists no longer eager to see me. Pirates clutching me with their sharp claws. Grievously rebelling against my laws. My heart laments when I see injustice thriving with dry, barefaced malice. I, Dominica, can talk on radio and phone of aliens who tread in my comfort zone with devious devices to sell my soul, hoping to steal control at the pole. The powers that be mock and gloat, treading with dead souls to snap a vote, blocking all efforts for electoral reform. The joint mission report they reject and scorn. Afraid to cleanse the voters list, rejecting voters' ID with false promise. I, Dominica, must talk because regiments strangle a worthy cause. Citizens who protest for their lawful right are scattered by tear gas and driven out of sight. Political arrests unheard of before provoke violence, civil unrest, and much, much more. I see my people walking in fear, afraid to talk or even shed a tear. I, Dominica, can talk, so I talk when politics trigger enmity between friend and family, from pulpit to pew, under severe scrutiny. When I see the youth of my ancestry on the street corners, hungry and thirsty, victimization causing my children to bow. They have no passion to put their hands to the plow. They rather get a cool out now for now than go catch a fish by the sweat of their brow. I, Dominica, can talk when I hear bubble flowing black is white. Billions of dollars disappear out of sight, flying sky high all over my children's head, yet they cannot get a black cent to buy bread. Have mercy, they're bawling. Oh, mother, help me. My heart bleeding to see distress and calamity, weighing them down from mountain to sea. They are suffering, blinded, and disabled as they stretch their hands for crumbs from the table. I, Dominica, must talk to voice my pain. Misery and poverty driving my children insane. I see criminals, rogues, and thugs in the rat race. They expose my body to utter shame and disgrace. Conspiracies and crafty deals operate in dead of night. My soul wallows in sorrow in this obnoxious plight. Far worse than Erica and Maria tragedies, more harmful than sickness and disease. Now is the time for me, Dominica, to stand boldly and talk, to free my children to walk the walk, to emancipate their minds from mental slavery, to take back their power and authority. I arise to say enough is enough. If anyone vex, let them huff and puff. This is me, Dominica, talking now to captain or crook I will not bow. Oh God, I cry out to you. Save me. Intervene in this attack by the enemy. Send me divine help from your throne, I plead. Defend my children from brutal rivalry. Break down the altars of idolatry that not even my pastor's eyes can see. Forgive their trespasses, O Lord, I pray. Send your warring angels to help me today. The war is raging. I am in an awful state. Rescue me, O Lord, before it is too late.
Say it loud, say it clear. Dominica talking now, boy. Amen to that poem, right? Oh, I'm getting a little calls. Matt, can you send me that poem? Hello, talk to me. Yes, talk to me. Yes.
Yes, Dominica can talk. Thompson, all you need to put that on board. Take that on board and everything else. Do some brainstorming. Set up some think tanks, Thompson. And why is his name Claudius and Ronald and all of you? Boss, this is not time to cower. I'm not telling people to go and send stones and go and fight before they hear me talk about to fight them. This is war. And I'm not talking about the guns and ammunition, and they are on their side, but we should not be afraid. Matt, we have to stand up if we allow Skerrit to take Dominica, grip her with the Chinese, Matt. Matt, we know the devil. The deep blue sea, the depth, there is. And I rather run to the devil than I run to the unknown. And China is the deep blue sea, Matt. Don't worry, you know. Forget about blessings. Take care.
Owen, a lot of people are asking for you, man. Owen in St. Thomas. I want your take on what is going on. My friend Owen, imagine that. People are calling for Owen at this time. Hello, good afternoon to you on the telephone, 243. Yes, are you there? Hello?
Yes,
How
my
are,
friend.
how are you, my friend? How are you?
Felty.
Mr. Alvin Thomas, how are you doing?
Not bad, man, Matt. How you doing? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too.
Yes, yes. Wish you and the staff at Q and the rest of Dominica Happy New Year. Although it looked like our New Year have started off in a very tumultuous times, I must say, in Dominica. And question remains, how do we move from where we are to a better place?
So tell me what's your
Are you
view.
there?
Yes, I'm saying, well, tell me what's your view on what's going on.
Well, Matt, I think the situation, how should I put it, is a little more complicated than what is just being seen or said on the surface. And if we look at, first of all, the matter as it pertains to visa restrictions, yes, that's a matter. We have a restriction on Dominica that's going to be there for the next 90 days or so, I believe. And then, of course, you have the more recent development as it relates to posting of bond for persons who want to visit the United States. So which means, though, that even if and when the visa restriction is removed, you still have to contend with the situation of posting a bond of anywhere from 5,000 US up to 15,000 US. So that's an issue. And then, of course, more recently, you had a situation whereby the Prime Minister disclosed Dominica's agreement with the US to accept refugee/deportees. And I think that is important, though, Matt. We must not use that word or this interchangeably, meaning that a refugee is not the same as a deportee. And even for purposes of UN Convention and legislation, they are two completely different categories of persons. A refugee, and that has been mentioned and explained over the last 2 days on your program, is someone who flees his country for fear of, and not just fear, well-founded fear of persecution, either because of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion. So that's considered a refugee. And that person would seek asylum in a particular country. So they are forced to flee. And they are protected under international law. And one such provision that comes to mind is the 1951 UN Convention relating to the status of refugee. And there's also a 1967 protocol, UN. And that defines clearly who is a refugee, the rights of refugee, the obligations, because these individuals have certain rights and obligations when they are in other countries. Now, you have what is called now a deportee. And a deportee is a person who has been formally removed from a country by that country's authority, usually due to immigration violations or criminal convictions, either or. And therefore, their removal is involuntary. They have no choice. They appear before the judge says, well, look, you are a risk to society, you have violated your immigration status, and we're going to have you deported out of the country. They are often returned to their countries of citizenship. And it needs to be noted that they are not protected as refugees under the asylum claim or the UN Refugee Convention. So that is a complete different category. So I think first and foremost, the Prime Minister has to be very specific and say to the Dominican people, are we taking in deportees or are we taking in refugees? Because the conventions, the laws, the legislation does not apply equally to these categories of persons. You also have what might be referred to as migrants. Migrants are persons who move from one country to another, primarily for economic, educational, family, or personal reasons. And their movement is generally voluntarily. They're not fleeing persecution. and they're generally governed mainly by the national immigration laws and not again refugees laws. So, for example, we have a number of Haitians who migrated to Dominica. And most of them, one might say, came for economic reason, economic migrants or labor, came for work or student or family. So these are considered migrants. So they are three complete different categories. So we must not now confuse the people by saying we are accepting refugees, because if you accept a refugee, the way in which you treat with this individual is completely different if you accept a deportee. And if, therefore, we are going to accept deportees, meaning that persons that the United States, does not want into their country, the questions remain, therefore, do we have in place the necessary institutional framework and structure to deal with that? I heard the Prime Minister mention that he had discussion with the U.S. and that some of his decisions are decisions that he unilaterally takes. He does not deal or consult with his cabinet, which is very unfortunate, because one would have expected that in dealing with a matter as important as this, that certain other persons in his cabinet would have had some sort of say and input on the matter, namely your Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in terms of diplomatic aspect of that, your Ministry of Legal Affairs. Maybe we should have heard from the Attorney General or the Prime Minister himself through the Attorney General what legal framework has been put in place to deal with such a situation as it relates to either, as I said, refugees or deportees. What about your immigration minister, the immigration division? What sort of operational implementation that are in place to deal with that? Social services. What about your social services department and ministry? I mean, how reinforced are they to handle an influx of either refugees or deportees? So it seems to me that in taking such a decision, there has to be a holistic approach to it. I heard my friend Joshua Francis mention the absence of legislation. One would have expected that there would have been some discussion in the Parliament on this matter as well. None of that took place. But let me just say to you, Matt, all of what I've just said and all of what has been in the discussion over the last couple of days, and I heard Blessing sort of alluded earlier, has to do with a much broader geopolitical framework. I think that is where this thing has to be placed. And yes, the CBI is a certain aspect of that, because that was mentioned in the president's proclamation. The fact that these two countries, Antigua and Dominica, were given visa restrictions had to do with the manner in which they manage their CBI programs. But Matt, let us not forget a few things. One, we had the creation of ALBA. And ALBA was founded in 2004 by Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, and Cuba, Fidel Castro. That was in 2004. And the ALBA is rooted in the Bolivarian anti-imperialism Latin American unity. 2, socialism of the 21st century. And 3, resistance to U.S. influence and neoliberal capitalism. That was the basis under which ALBA was rooted. And ALBA's core ideological aims was 1, challenge U.S. political, economic, and military influence in Latin America and the Caribbean, promote sovereignty, self-determination, and anti-imperialism, build a multipolar world order aligned with countries like Russia, China, and Iran. And of course, come with that was the economic objective of state-led development, barter and concessional trade. We see that with Petrocari, preferential financing, subsidized energy arrangement, Petrocari. And that was the underlying reason for the formation of ALBA. And they place a lot of emphasis as well on social objectives, health mission with the Cuban doctors, literacy program, education exchange. And interestingly, when ALBA was formed, the first country within the OES to join and become a member of ALBA was Dominica in 2008, okay, under Prime Minister Roosevelt. In 2009, we saw St. Vincent and the Grenadines came on board under Ralph Gonzalez in 2009. Then we saw Antigua came on board under PM Baldwin Spencer. And then we saw Grenada in 2009 as well under PM Tillman Thomas. And St. Lucia in 2013 under PM Kenny Anthony. St. Kitts is not a member. Montserrat is not a member. Anguilla, of course, these are UK territories, as well as British Virgin Islands. And the other islands in the wider CARICOM are not members. So that is ALBA. We heard also that when the Venezuela Maduro allegedly won the last general election, Prime Minister Skerrit was the first person to congratulate him. And said that, you know, we must recognize the Venezuelan government and no other country should question the validity of the elections and all of that. So we know of the relationship here. But let me also say to you, Mark, there was an article published on the 1st of May in 2024 in the Newsweek article. And it was done by a senior reporter on international affairs and investigations by the name of D.D. Kirsten Tetlow. D.D. Kirsten Tetlow. And that is dated, as I said, May 1, 2024. You can research that yourself. And the title of that article was, U.S. lawmakers urge action over China in the Caribbean, quote unquote, alarm bells. That's the caption of the article. And let me just refer to you very briefly, one or two sections in there. It says there the United States must do more to block fast-growing Chinese influence in the Caribbean, in Latin America. Two prominent members of Congress told Newsweek after its report on China's extensive involvement on the island of Antigua. And he's quoting there, quoting one of the representatives. The alarm bells are ringing over China's increased presence in our hemisphere. And that's a quote coming from the representative Mike Walsh. He's a Republican in Florida, a member of the Armed Services, Foreign Affairs, and the Select Committee on Intelligence, told the Newsweek by email. China's push into strategically important regions through diplomacy, loans, grants, and investments pose economic and security challenges for the U.S., and it should be met in kind. That is quoted by Raja Krishnamurthy. Raja Krishnamurthy is a Democrat from Illinois who is also a member of the Armed Services, Foreign Affairs, and the Select Committee on Intelligence. And he told the Newsweek that was his response to that interview with the Newsweek. Krishnamurthy is the ranking member of the Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party, as well a member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and the Committee on Oversight and Accountability. So here you have two representatives, one a Republican, one a Democrat, taking a position as it relates to China's influence. The members of Congress were responded to reporting by Newsweek that documented the signing of a private deal in January for a new Chinese special economic zone with exceptional privileges, a new airline to serve the zone, and a clutch of new agreements including one of Antigua's officials to study Chinese leader Jinping's thought on governance, and another for China to help rebuild Antigua's water piping system. The article also quoted concerns from the U.S. military's Southern Command over China's expanding presence in the region. That's in 2024. And here's what further that then of course the Prime Minister of Antigua, the Antiguan government of Prime Minister Gaston Brong has said that there is no cause for concern at the deepening relationship between Antigua and China. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassies in Antigua, Bang Qing Dui, said China's cooperation with Antigua was in the interest of the Antiguan people. But here it is. I think it was Crispin, Ambassador Crispin was on your program, and I think I heard Simeon Joseph made reference to it about the Monroe Doctrine. Okay? Are you there, Matt?
I'm right here. We have to wrap up in a minute, but I'm right here. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, let me just wrap up because I think we need to put that in perspective and not deal with it in an isolated manner. Wolf, who, as I said, is a Democrat on the armed services, he said we need a new Monroe Doctrine that specifically looks to block the economic and military influence of China. Okay? Those were coming from that representative. But in addition to that, Matt, let me say to you that there is a representative with a Democrat in the Virgin Island legislature. She represents the Virgin Islands. She's a Democrat, a representative. Stacey Plaskett. She issued a warning back in 2023, and her concerns and the heading of her warning was guarding our backyard, China's influence in the Caribbean. And she talks about that as well. So it should not come as any surprise to us that what is taking place between Antigua and Dominica and the U.S. bringing down the harm on those two countries should come as a surprise. Rest assured as well, Mark, in Dominica's own situation, we have a number of issues that can be raised. One, electoral reform, the question about elections and the way that's been managed. Two, the dismantling of the IPO. We had an IPO that was responsible for looking and ensuring that corruptions and persons in public office, that was dismantled. So nobody can investigate and look into how public officers acquire assets, earn monies and stuff like that. We had that situation. Three, when the Prime Minister visited, there was a team that visited Washington back, I think it was in 23 or 24, somewhere about there. And Mark Rubio raised the question with our Dominica delegation. Why was it that an American company was not given the opportunity to bid on the airport project? That the project is being undertaken, a project of that magnitude is being undertaken solely by Chinese. Where is the transparency and accountability? Those were raised. So I'm saying all of this to say, Matt, we must not look at this in isolation and say, well, suddenly the Americans just got up and placed a restriction on visa and bond payment and all this thing. It's a culmination of things. It's a culmination of what the Americans considered corruption, too much of an influence in the region. I haven't even mentioned the fact that we had close to 1,000 Americans here in Ross University that just disappeared. The Ross just left, and nobody seemed to pay any attention to that. An institution that was contributing somewhere in the region of 20-30% of GDP thereabouts.
That's true.
Why? Suddenly that we did not want to have such a big presence of Americans on the island. So this is where we are today. And the question I guess we all need to ask ourselves as Dominicans, both at home and abroad, is one, how did we get there? And I try to give a picture as to how I think we got there, but more importantly, how we get out of there. What do we do now as Dominicans to get out of there? And I will just simply end out by saying it's like having a bigger company. The company is failing, it has failed, it has lost, not making profit. And therefore, what do? Do we continue and allow the company to shut down, or do we change the management of that company? Bring in a new CEO, bring in a new board of directors, and change the direction of that company. I think that's where we are.
All right, caller. I'm all full here this afternoon, but of course, I appreciate the perspective on how we got there today. Just received some news that a young man's body was discovered somewhere in the Mount Prosper area. Unconfirmed reports indicated it may have been a suicide. We'll find out more information because he's been missing for a little while, and his body was just discovered this morning. That's all I can report at this time. And somebody's saying, Matt, can you please play that poem before you go? One more time.
Dominica, can talk.
Dominica,
I arise
can talk.
from my sabbatical. I am under siege, facing the test. Treacherous attacks by rulers of darkness choking my soul, my very breath. They exploit and disturb my sanctity. Yes, I, Dominica, can talk with clarity. I, Dominica, have to talk because my back is weary. With filthy load, too heavy to carry. A new wave of slavery torments me. I see murder, treason, deception, bribery, afflicting me with burdens of horrific iniquity. I must vomit the venom from my belly. I, Dominica, must talk before it's too late. My waters brewing with bitterness, envy, hate, stenches of threats blowing in the air. The monarch in the palace does not seem to care. My womb is troubled, travailing in agony when I see underhand deals extending quietly. Gangsters and rebels shamelessly prostitute me, selling my birthright to Tom, Dick, and Harry. My garment is filthy and stained with blood. I am tired of abuse. Hear my cry, O Lord. I, Dominica, must talk when sacrifice of human and animal growing religiously. Diabolical powers flood over my little territory. Conniving schemes embezzle my sovereignty. Tourists no longer eager to see me. Pirates clutching me with their sharp claws. Grievously rebelling against my laws. My heart laments when I see injustice thriving with dry, barefaced malice. I, Dominica, can talk on radio and phone of aliens who tread in my comfort zone with devious devices to sell my soul, hoping to steal control at the pole. The powers that be mock and gloat, treading with dead souls to snap a vote, blocking all efforts for electoral reform. The joint mission report they reject and scorn. Afraid to cleanse the voters list, rejecting voters' ID with false promise. I, Dominica, must talk because regiments strangle a worthy cause. Citizens who protest for their lawful right are scattered by tear gas and driven out of sight. Political arrests unheard of before provoke violence, civil unrest, and much, much more. I see my people walking in fear, afraid to talk or even shed a tear. I, Dominica, can talk. So I talk when politics trigger enmity between friend and family, from pulpit to pew, under severe scrutiny. When I see the youth of my ancestry on the street corners, hungry and thirsty, victimization causing my children to bow. They have no passion to put their hands to the plow. They rather get a cool out now for now than go catch a fish by the sweat of their brow. I, Dominica, can talk when I hear bubble flowing black is white. Billions of dollars disappear out of sight, flying sky high all over my children's head, yet they cannot get a black cent to buy bread. Have mercy, they're bawling. Oh, mother, help me. My heart bleeding to see distress and calamity, weighing them down from mountain to sea. They are suffering, blinded, and disabled as they stretch their hands for crumbs from the table. I, Dominica, must talk to voice my pain. Misery and poverty driving my children insane. I see criminals, rogues, and thugs in the rat race. They expose my body to utter shame and disgrace. Conspiracies and crafty deals operate in dead of night. My soul wallows in sorrow in this obnoxious plight. Far worse than Erica and Maria tragedies, more harmful than sickness and disease. Now is the time for me, Dominica, to stand boldly and talk, to free my children, to walk the walk, to emancipate their minds from mental slavery, to take back their power and authority. I arise to say enough is enough. If anyone vex, let them huff and puff. This is me, Dominica, talking now. To captain or crook, I will not bow. Oh God, I cry out to you, save me. Intervene in this attack by the enemy. Send me divine help from your throne, I plead. Defend my children from brutal rivalry. Break down the altars of idolatry that not even my pastor's eyes can see. Forgive their trespasses, O Lord, I pray. Send your warring angels to help me today. The war is raging. I am in an awful state. Rescue me, O Lord, before it is too late.
And that's how we wrap it up for the afternoon. On the Talk on the Block. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed, right? We'll be back if God is willing tomorrow on the hot seat.